Hello and welcome to your Thursday catch-up with This Is Ibrox. I'm your host, Kyran. Tonight I'm joined by Iain. Iain, I was going to ask how you're doing, but maybe that's a wee bit obvious, but it's a pleasure that you're here.
Health-wise, I'm all right. That's one thing. Football club-wise, it's back at square one, aren't we? Awful night last night. It's one of those ones so I don't have much expectation, but even then, you're still annoyed, you're still let down. Exact same at the weekend for me. And yeah, here we go again, the same managerial chat that we had, 3 months ago? Just back to Groundhog Day, isn't it?
Yep, the same movie, different actors, as the saying goes. But yeah, we're also delighted to be joined by our loyal viewers and listeners. So thank you for joining us. As ever, please make sure you're hitting the like button, also sharing the video and getting involved in the comments. It always makes a night. And if you've got plenty to get off your chest, then make sure you're putting it in the comments. Anyway, we'll not really hang about. We've got loads to get through in terms of last night, the big elephant in the room, Russell Martin's future, the old firm at the weekend, and what's happening on the transfer fronts. We'll try our best to cram that in to the full half hour, but I don't think you have to. I think you would be living under a rock to not know what we're going to talk about tonight. So we'll get right into it. Iain, last night, absolute embarrassment. The players should be ashamed of themselves. The manager should be ashamed of himself. It was a complete and utter abomination of everything that Rangers shouldn't be, and complete drop in standards. And yeah, things have got to change. Where are you on this?
Yeah, no, I'm fully behind you there. Like I said, I didn't have any expectation we would go through. I had that. You always have that thing in your head that if we get the first goal, who knows? Try and win both halves 1-0, go for there. But within 2-3 minutes, that hope's gone. And then after 8-9 minutes, you're down on an extra down a red card. So the players just chucked it for me. Obviously, Aarons is the one that gets the red card and rightfully takes a lot of that flack. But it doesn't mean you're done. You just start shipping goals left, right, and centre. There's so many shocking moments in there. We looked like an absolute amateur team up against professionals, and I just don't understand how we've all chucked it so quickly. It's one of those things where there's obviously been a bit of politics behind the scenes. Certain players are fell out with Russell Martin is the story, and who knows what's true, who knows what's happened. But you can see there's a divide in there. There's players not playing for Russell Martin. There's players not playing for each other. And more importantly, there's players not playing for us and for the club in general. They're just such disappointments from front to back. Really, Jack Butland has probably saved it from being double digits on the night. He's the only one I think, holds head up high, but he probably still can't. It's just so bitterly disappointing. And I think looking at the weekend, even a win against Celtic at this point doesn't just fix it for me. I know that's kind of what Russell Martin's job probably depends on at this point, but I just don't see any hope in this. It just feels like the statement today about, we're backing Russell Martin for now. I think that for now is a very big for now. And then it's one more bad result. And it's
doing a lot of heavy lifting that.
Yes, exactly.
You made a great point there. When you see how it's played out, you see the divide, right? When Max Aarons gets sent off, like, I'm not going to say for a second they meant it. I don't feel like players do that, right? But it felt like, right, the only consequence to us here as players is that the manager will probably wrap it because he's on his way out anyway, and we don't like what he's doing. That's what it felt like, and that's what it seems like. When you say about a divide, he's more or less said there's a divide. The Hamza Agaman stuff, the constant reference of guys don't want to be here, the whole, I think harmony was his buzzword last night in the dressing room. The honest chat with Cyril Dessers about his situation. It's obvious that Dessers wants to play and be the number 9, and if that's not the case, he wants to go. Bayrami, Cortez, the list goes on. There's obviously unsettlement with Nico Raskin. And it's unravelling at a rate and a speed that I never thought it could. And I don't know. I know where we go for here. Russell Martin's going to get the sack, but it's when it happens. And this is my biggest worry. My biggest worry is that attitude flows into Sunday. If we go a goal behind, there's no coming back, and I don't care what anybody says. The fragility amongst this team is that brittle that one goal could open the floodgates and it could be bad. And not just that, it's the attitude of, well, if that happens, then the manager will go and we'll be fine. And I think that's been the attitude for too long amongst the players at Rangers. And for me, I still don't see him going win, lose or draw after Sunday. I think the board have made their bed. But my biggest worry, not just what could happen on Sunday, but my biggest worry is, regardless of what happens on Sunday, if they let this run, the Hearts at home game, you've got Derek McInnes, very good tactical manager, good record against Rangers, and then that Hibs game. The Hibs game is the one that sticks out with a sore thumb to me. We could be out of Champions League qualification, out of the running for the league, and out of the League Cup within the next 3 games. And that's what I feel that they're waiting on. Like, you look at Patrick Stewart, back to Clement 1 week and sacked him the next. Once everything had gone, like, and I know it was bad at that, but like, why are we waiting? I don't get that. The inevitable's going to happen here. He's going to go. He's not. I don't think he'll last till October, but he shouldn't even last that long. And it's just, we're delaying the inevitable, but we're delaying it at a cost. And we've seen this movie far too many times. Like, why not just do it just now? Get a decent enough interim in that can get a bounce out these players. And we've interviewed guys 2 months ago.
Yep.
Surely you're not interviewing candidates where there's people in the building that are saying none of us fancy him. There's got to have been candidates in amongst that. We were linked with a lot in terms of Ancelotti, Gerrard. See, Dyche keeps popping up, Marco Rosa. Like, there's a lot of good managers that we were linked with. You cannot tell us that they can't go back and say, look, you got it wrong. We'd like to interview you again. The manager's job's vacant. How do you feel about it now? We've spent the crux of 20 million on a squad and we feel that you could improve it. That's where we should be just now. And yeah,
I'm trying just now, which is really like depressing. It's fact Russell Martin's lost everyone and there's no turning back. Even if he wins 2, 3, 4 games in a row, say he wins, as unlikely as that sounds right now, but say he beats Celtic, beats Hearts, beats Hibs, and you get through in the cup there, maybe a good Europa performance. It then takes one bad result and everyone's got an ice out again. It's that toxic just now because not only what we see in the pitch isn't good enough, the recruitment hasn't been good enough. And I don't put that in Martin, to be honest. That's why the blame goes up a couple of levels as well, which I think people need to reinforce. It's not just Russell Martin that's got this wrong so far. But once you get to that stage for me that, you know, everyone's just done, you can't fix that. It was the same with Clement. He got a couple of good results, then it was a bad one, and we all wanted him gone again. And like you say, it took until we were done and dusted for the season before we made that call. This season's got a long way to go. You know, we are potentially 3 points away from Celtic if you win on Sunday. A draw and you're 6 points behind. You know, it's not the end of the world. You're through in Europa League, can have a very good run there, and you're still in a cup. There's so much still to play for. Not to mention there's still a transfer window open for a couple of days, so there's still change that could be made. But if you kick that can down the road, like you said, gets into sort of mid-late September, and then you make the call, it's suddenly a very different thing. And that's where it kills you as a fan when your season's done and it's winter. You know, it's Christmas hasn't gone yet and your season's done. And we've had that, 3 of the last 4 years sort of thing, and until only the other one was Clement clawing us back. So I can't go through that again after all the hope and expectation that summer brought us with the investment, the signings we were told, the £20 million on players that was coming, to now be in this position in late August. It's absolutely insane.
It's wild. You think as well, like, it's crazy that it's almost like all hope is gone, and for anyone like me that pays the season ticket on 4 instalments before my instalments have even been paid, man. It's wild. It is absolutely wild. And here's the thing as well. Following this Old Firm game on Sunday, the club are going to be asking for Europa League group stage money, and I think we were £180 last year, something like that. Like, are fans really going to pay that? Like, we had 40,000 at the Brugge game. The fans are already doing the talking with their feet, and we can't afford to go down that road again where people just don't turn up for games because what's happening isn't what they want. It's a poor way to go, but I think that the bottom line of it is that he's going to go, right? He's going to go. He's not going to stay the season, so why wait? That's a frustration just now. And I think I'll come to you with the title of the show. You know, I know I've just said that, but would an Old Firm victory buy him time?
I think it probably does. Whether it's right or wrong is a different scenario because, like the comments are saying there, like we've been saying, I don't think an Old Firm victory fixes everything and suddenly we're back. But to try and play devil's advocate, if you win that game, you're 3 points behind, which is it's not great, but it's fine. It's certainly fixable. You've got Europa League, which I think was the bare minimum. But before the ball was kicked this season, I don't think anyone expected Champions League. So the fact we're in the Europa League was what I expected, was what I sort of took as my worst case scenario. It would still be successful kind of thing. So that part's fine. Then you try and get through in the cup. It's something we say in this podcast all the time. It would take baby steps to try and rebuild something. But
yeah,
I think all of us would just be waiting for that next dagger, that next poor performance, that next strange comment. Because I don't think it's press conferences and these after-match thoughts are helping them in any way, shape or form. Like all this learning, and we won't do this again. We won't concede that goal again. We won't lose 6-0 again. We might. How can you say we won't? We don't know that. Yes, you can say we'll try not to do that again and we'll work on this. And talk is very cheap, especially at Rangers. I put that tweet out yesterday. I think it was the Stevie Smith interview when the B team have lost at Stranraer. You don't get time at Rangers to learn. You don't get time here to develop things and try and work on stuff. And all summer we did say we're going to need some patience at times. We're going to need to suffer a little bit, but we thought we would suffer while winning and it would get better. 5% better every game. You'd see patterns. You'd see little bits in games that go, okay, I get that. That's good. Didn't work there, or the goalie made a mistake there, or there was a defensive mix-up there. Likewise, a goalie can have a great game and keep you out. It's not that's the problem here. It's not the struggling to win games because of one or two little things that we're working on. It's just absolutely nothing. And, last night was the first proper good team who have just took us to the sword. And if Russell Martin stays, it will not be the last. And that's why, for me, he has to go.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring up this comment from Luke Gibson because he makes a great point. We're potentially going to lose our favourite and best player in the team right now in Nico Raskin over Russell Martin. I think that's a fantastic point, just for the case that it feels like the Todd Cantwell versus Philippe Clement story all over again, where we've got a very good player in our hands. The two of them have obviously come to blows, or they don't see eye to eye, and that we will probably accept something a lot less for Nico Raskin than what we would be looking for because the manager doesn't fancy him, all while we know that the manager isn't going to last. So for me, I think, I don't know how the board can act upon this because they're not going to openly say to the manager, look, you're in a hiding to nothing here, it's just a matter of time. But at the same time, he's not going to want to keep Raskin. Raskin's probably not going to want to stay, and it's just a recipe for disaster. And that is my biggest worry, that Raskin goes and then in a matter of weeks, Russell Martin goes and we're left with what? Rothwell is our main six, and we know that's not worked so far. I don't know where you're at with the whole Raskin stuff.
I think his dad coming out and commenting on stuff today is pretty telling. From the outside, we know that Raskin isn't liked by Russell Martin in some way, and don't get me wrong, there's things that we don't know. I think the press conference last night was leading to the fact that he maybe has one eye out the door, and if Russell Martin's trying to build something and develop things here and there, he maybe can't rely on Raskin if he's pretty sure he's going to be leaving. So I get not playing him, sort of. For me, you still play your best players while they're here. Like last night is a massive game for us. Like I said, if we score that first goal, you don't know what happens, and you've got to start your best team. And yet, at 7:00 last night, I saw the team and thought, well, that midfield is going to get eaten alive. Like, no disrespect to Cameron, because I think he tried his hardest, but he's very new at European level. He's not built for that. Whereas you look in the bench and you've got a trio there of Barron, Diomande, and Raskin. And don't get me wrong, Barron is not, to me, Rangers standard. Might get there, but not just now. And Diomande's not kicked his arse this season. So there is problems in that three. But that's the three that went to Nice and scored 4 goals and won out of nowhere last season. We were in poor form at that time, and we won that game with that midfield. So midfield that knows how to play, they'll pressure all day, they'll hustle, they'll kick you, they'll be difficult to play against. And instead of that, you've put in Asgard, who's still finding his feet, don't really know his best slot in the team, still getting to know his teammates, and Rothwell, who was knackered after half an hour. Again, I just don't understand that part of it. And yes, players can be half out the door, players can be unsure where their future lies, but if they're in the squad, involve them in the game. Bringing Raskin on at 5-0 in his home country, it's just embarrassing for him. That's shocking. Turning to a guy like Tav after 10 minutes because Max Aarons has sold the jerseys. That's embarrassing. That's your two main men over the last year or so at Ibrox. Has been Raskin and Tav, two captains at times last season, and you've just shunned them to the side to bring in your new guys in a game of that importance. New guys who haven't warranted starting these games. So it's that kind of decision for me that is Russell Martin sort of sealed his fate. Because as I say, there's plenty more to blame. There's the recruitment side of it, which I think has been a nightmare from the start. But in-game activity, Russell Martin should be doing so much better.
Yeah, I'll bring up this comment from Matt Weir here. It says, evening guys, 49ers and Cava needs to be... Cava. We hope for Cava at the end of the season, but it's not looking that likely. 49ers and Kavanagh needs to be ruthless here and get a new CEO who can run the club ruthlessly and efficiency and make the big calls. Stuart will make mistake after mistake. Now, don't get me wrong, Patrick Stewart has been, I don't know, he's had a very shaky tenure so far for me. The criticism of the banner at Ibrox, the backing of Clement, and then the sacking of Clement, and now this whole Russell Martin scenario. And I think he's right there. And what I would say as well is there's a huge contingent coming over from the States on Sunday. The full board and the full owners group will be there on Sunday. They're hopefully going to see what we've been seeing for so long, that this isn't good enough. And I hope they don't just see it as a one-off, because it isn't. And what I would say, if fans aren't happy, then this is probably their best opportunity to protest or let their feelings be heard. And that's not me trying to organise something, but this is how fans work and fan groups work. And we've already seen the Rangers Supporters Association. We've seen the Rangers Fan Advisory Board. You've seen sort of other fan media groups like Heart and Hand and Four Lads come out, and it's pretty much unanimous amongst probably about 99.9% of the support. I support.
When has that ever been the case?
Yes,
like, ever been any situation, signing, management, boardroom, we are never unanimous. That's the joy of being a Rangers fan and doing a podcast. Like you see opinions, you listen to stuff, you're on Twitter all day, crazy opinions left, right, and centre. I've not seen a single person who backs Russell Martin at this point, and I was a massive believer in him. I said it just a couple of days ago. I think if you win these two games, you're back, you've got something to play for again. I've chucked it, and if I'm chucking it and thinking he's done, I'm sure I'm one of the later ones to realise it. So it's brought us all together. There's the one positive we can spin off all this.
Yeah, we're in unity against one man. Rangers on Tour have just posted in our comments there. We ran a poll last night and it's 98% he should be sacked. I think that 2% was Russell Martin and Lucy Panda. Anyway, we could be here all night. I think we said before the show we could last a hell of a lot more than half an hour talking about the manager's future and where we go from here. I think we've done it to death so far. But let's look at the transfer front. Bojan Mijovski, this one looks like it's all but ready to be announced. I think he's arriving tomorrow for a medical at the club. I know it's hard to get excited by anything at Rangers this week, but surely this one gets you going.
It does, and I like the fact that initially it was mentioned it'd been a loan move, and I thought, God, another loan. Like you're not building anything with loans. The fact it's changed to a permanent transfer, I think, is quite key in terms of why I'm excited by it. And I don't think he is like the answer. He's not perfect, but I think it's a better option that we've got up front just now in any capacity. So I'm all for that. A guy that knows the league, a guy that has scored goals in the league for a poor Aberdeen side at the time. It's fact. Yeah. I think that's a really important key, because that's why I say about the recruitment. We've bought so many guys that just don't suit what we need right now. And again, and we'll come on to Chermiti, however you say that, but that sort of loan from England, a guy that you know is not going to have a future here, a guy that's going to come up and take time to settle, does not work right now. Whereas a Majovski type should be able to come in and hit the ground running. And don't get me wrong, he's not had the best year or two over in Spain, but there's no doubt in his quality. He can score his goals, and yeah, he's one I would hope was in for the Old Firm game, but it's looking a bit unlikely at this point.
Yeah, and I like what you said there. He scored in the league. He knows the league. He knows those tricky away grounds. It's just going to be interesting how he adapts to the pressure of playing for Rangers. And where I feel sorry for him is he's coming into Russell Martin's side where we do not create chances, so he's going to have very little to play with. What I also like is he scored against them quite regularly, and he scored in the big games. He's big, he's powerful, he's very strong. We've seen it with the goal at Ibrox where he just sort of out-muscled Connor Goldson and lobbed Jack Butland. Like, that's what he's got in his locker. And a team like Girona, who don't tend to spend too much money, don't go and spend, what was it, 7 million on him to bring him in. So, yeah, and the upside as well is if we are buying him for less than Girona bought him for, then Aberdeen don't get a sell on it. So the small victories at this moment, the way we're going through. So that's one that we expect to be announced. Igaman, I think there's been videos of him being at Lille for his medical. So there's one that we're probably waiting for the others going the other way to be announced. The other you mentioned there, I had it on my screen there, Youssef Chermiti from Everton. Now, I don't know much about this guy, but again, another loan from a development team in England. They've paid good money for him and they want to send him to us to develop. Like, here's my thing, and I said it when we were on Tuesday night, right? See, if we're selling Igaman, we need to be signing the next striker to develop. Whether he costs 2 million, 3 million, I don't know, more than that. We need to be signing the next young, raw striker that we can go, right, okay, here's your opportunity. Go and show us what you've got. The same way Igaman did against clubs like Nice, Tottenham Hotspur, away to Parkhead. Those big moments are what has earned us 5 times or more than 5 times what we paid for him. This, I don't know how good the lad is from Everton, but the whole loan and develop somebody else's player really grinding my gears now, because we've got enough loan players just now. Where's the big investment that we were promised from the 49ers to go and buy players? That's the way I'm looking at it just now.
Yeah, because what you want is guys to come in that kind of age bracket of maybe 20 to 25 who have had a couple of seasons of first team football, got potential, maybe a little bit under the radar, and you see him come in and think, okay, he can help us now and we can make big bucks off him in the future. And not every signing can be that, but how many loans from England are we going to go through here? Because there's just no future there. I mean, this guy was signed for 12.5 million from Everton a couple of seasons ago. Obviously got potential, played a little bit for Sporting over there, played 4 games in the league last season though. So I don't expect to just come in and be fit and be ready to go. I think he played more games for the development sides last year as well. So he just isn't what we need right now. And like you say, he could be the most talented boy in the world. He looks like quite a powerful striker, but I just don't think it works. If you're telling me that we're getting rid of the goals of Dessers, and don't get me wrong, Dessers has flaws as well, no, but the goals of Dessers and the potential and raw skill of Igaman to replace with Majowski, just fine. Yeah. But a guy who's totally unproven, doesn't know the league, will take time to settle. By the time he settles, he's on a loan anyway, so you're not going to be putting all your eggs in his basket kind of thing. I don't get it. It's not suitable for what we need right now. And yeah, he's another one that's going to have to come in and hit the ground running, because that pressure is going to be on him straight away. Because right now our striker situation is not good enough. It's what we talk about every week. We don't have strikers good enough to do what we need to do. He doesn't strike me as the guy that's going to fix that. He's not going to. And it sounds harsh. So right now, off before he's kicked a ball for us, he could come in and be great. And I think in a normal season, if this signing was maybe 6 weeks ago, I think you go, okay, he's got some time to develop here, but it just seems a bit rushed, a bit, oh, who do I know who's a striker, who's available? Oh, I signed this guy 2 years ago, and Thelwell did, and it's a signing that I'm sure Everton fans would look at and go, well, that was a failure of a signing. So yeah, why is Thelwell now going, oh, it didn't work there, it might work here? It's lazy. It's lazy for me. You know, you've got this big recruitment drive, you've got all this data, this link with Leeds and what they're doing scouting-wise, and yet we're going to a guy that was signed 2 years ago by our, technical director, whatever Thelwell's title is.
Sporting director.
Just very unimaginative for me, and you know, I just don't see the logic in it, to be honest.
Let me tell you about a guy that we had on loan that would fit the bill absolutely perfect. I think I mentioned him on Tuesday night, and it's absolutely breaking my heart that we have not done anything about it. Abdallah Sima is about to sign for loan. It's just loans in my head now. Abdallah Sima is about to sign for loans for £3 million. I think it's 4.3 million euros. If my calculations are right, we're talking about £3 million. Why in God's name are we not all over that? That is a complete and utter no-brainer for us. He can play off the left. He would start down the middle for me. I think he's a powerful runner. And it's beggars belief that we were going to sign this guy for £6 million last year had we get past Dynamo Kiev. And that fell through. He goes to Brest, picks up 2 Man of the Match awards and scores in the Champions League. And yeah, there's Rangers on tour, hit the nail right on the head there. Loans by Sima with the Cortez money pretty much sums us up as a club. We need to go and make a move and try and get Abdallah Sima. Surely there's a relationship with Brighton there where we can say, right, wait a minute, if he's going there for that amount, then we'd be interested. Let's talk about it and see if we can give you a wee bit more for it. Like, would you be on board with Sima?
Of course I would. Of course I would. And it's one of those ones where you'll see some people say maybe we can't afford him wages-wise, maybe he doesn't want to come back, but he was always one of those players that done his Instagram post for the club, was always like evidently showing that he'd be keen to come back. Like, I have no doubts in my mind that he would have walked back to Glasgow if he could have. So it just doesn't make sense. And don't get me wrong, I think Sima was always better off the left. And for me, that's the one position we're okay in just now between Gassama, Moore. Obviously, Finlay Curtis has done himself no harm in that sort of role. So I don't think we need a left winger. But look at our striker position just now. Like you said, Sima is a massive upgrade of what we need. He suits that sort of pressing, powerful, physical guy. He's 6'3" and he's rapid as well. So he ticked all the boxes. Question mark over his injuries, obviously, which would be my one kind of fear when we're going to pay 6-7 million. I didn't love that, but for the sake of, as you say, 3 odd million, that was a tap in for me. And it's really one that's getting away because I just don't get it. And the Cortez stuff, like we've basically gave them the money to do this, and the guy that we've brought in, we're trying to ship out on loan to Portugal. So, oh God. It's a wonder we still do this podcast and just still go through this because this someone is playing tricks on us at this point.
We've aged a bit, and the thing we see, Matt, he loved it here. He loved it in Glasgow. His wee one was born here as well, so there's a connection. There's an emotional connection. It all makes sense that we should go back and get him, but nah, don't worry about it. We'll go and develop somebody else's player from the English Premiership. Take him on loan. We'll never see him again this time. Next year he'll be gone, and that's pretty much where we are as a club. Apologies to everyone in the comments. It's been a very frustrating and negative show, and everyone who might be listening tomorrow morning. But for anyone that's still with us, I see we've got over 100 live, which is pretty good considering who we're up against tonight. So yeah, please make sure you're subscribing, like the video, share this with your friends. The more we can grow, the more that we can do, and hopefully we can put a bit of a contribution towards transfer and get the players that we actually want. But no, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Iain, I hope you've had fun getting a wee bit off your chest and it's felt therapeutic.
It's cathartic as always. As we always say every couple of weeks, you need this to vent. It's got to turn at some point, right? It's got to get better.
Yeah, just remember we're turning a tanker, so I hope that helps. So yeah, we're here every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday at 7:30. We're live. The podcast comes out the following morning at 7 a.m. So if you're a fan of audio only, make sure to follow us or subscribe to us on your favourite podcast app. But nothing more left to say than good night.